Welcome to another addictive episode of the Ocean Sailing Podcast with your host and sailing addict, David Howes.
Hi folks, and welcome to episode 78 of the Ocean Sailing Podcast. This week we join David Hanton from Bradford Marine, who I've worked with for 4 years now, who provides anti-fouling and hull protection services to me personally. And Dave has agreed to have a fireside chat today to share his technical knowledge about anti-foul products, tips, advice on how to get the best possible result, how to product options available on the market, how to select those based on your type of boating, along with talking points around osmosis, what it is, how to prevent it, and some of the shortcuts that owners and tradesmen take that cause problems in terms of looking after their hull and protecting their hull. So David has agreed to share his knowledge. I do these technical sessions to help boat owners understand more about specific topics. You can't pay to advertise on the Ocean Sailing Podcast. We don't have paid product placement. If I talk to somebody from a specialist or technical background, it's because they have valuable information to share, and it's because either I use their products or services, or I know they come highly recommended from other boat owners who do. This episode was also recorded as a video cast, so if you want to watch it, check it out in the Ocean Sailing Podcast YouTube channel or in the Ocean Sailing Podcast Facebook group. So enjoy this week's very technical episode with David Hanton from Bradford Marine.
People walking to me and say I'm sorry.
Hey David, thanks for joining me today on the Ocean Sailing Podcast. Folks, I'm with David Hanton from Bradford Marine this week, and I've been working with Bradford Marine for going on 4 years, I think into the fifth year now. And I guess the background for me is I bought my yacht in 2011. 2015 I sandblasted the hull and the keel back to bare glass and bare steel, and then re-epoxied and re-anti-fouled. And put traditional anti-foul back on, and what I found was that every time I cleaned the hull, which was sort of 4 to 6 weekly, a little bit would come off each time, and then within 12 months I didn't have full coverage on the hull, and that led to osmosis. And also previously to working with Bradford's, when I had some osmosis treated, the painter had put filler or bog into the hull, not fiberglass. So fast forward, 2016, I started working with Bradford Marine, and as a result, I've had better treatment of my osmosis with my hull, where I had a dozen issues 5 years ago. It was down to half a dozen 4 years ago, and then a couple of issues 3 years ago, and then I think nothing last time around. Maybe one item last time around. We moved to the International Ultra paint, which was a harder paint, which was good for racing. I mean, you can clean it, it doesn't come off, but still found that although it did a great job, I needed to clean monthly to avoid slime growth on the hull and slowing the boat down. And then in 2019, just 4 months ago, David introduced me to the Seahawk range of paint, and I've put that on, which is a completely different type of anti-foul, and we'll come back to that later in the conversation. But 4 months in, I've had no regrowth on the hull, and it's got an amazing 2-year life expectancy. So I'm quite excited to share that with you and talk in more detail about how that works and why that works that way. So I guess in summary, I've got a 27-year-old hull that I'm protecting and looking after, and partly for longevity, partly for maintenance, partly for maximising boat speed. I've had some great results, and so I thought this is an opportunity, podcast-wise, to sit down with David and talk to him in more detail from a technical point of view about the art and the science of maintaining, protecting, and looking after people's hulls, because that's what they do for a business, and they've probably done, I don't know, thousands of hulls in their business lifetime. So David, welcome along.
Thanks, Dave. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. And just by way of introduction, just tell me, what does your business primarily do, and how long have you guys been operating now?
Bradford Marine's been operating out of Gold Coast for 20 odd years now. We've been established in several marinas around the place, Runaway Bay, Gold Coast City Marina, where we're currently, and previous boat works. So been in the business a long time. Marty Clark is the owner of the business, and he established that and has always had a passion for boating, much like myself. I was introduced to Marty about 12 years ago, and we sort of connected from then. And he's been doing it for a long time and has a vast amount of experience in what's involved. Bradford Marine run with a crew of about 12 or 13 people from Gold Coast City Marina, staff-wise. And we'd love to ensure that people have got their boats out and getting them maintained and going back and getting that longevity out of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and in terms of the types of hulls you look after, power, sail, wood, aluminium, glass, like what is the range you cover?
Yeah, power, sail, steel, houseboats, barges, and as I say, our business also incorporates sandblasting and that sort of, which we'll probably get into a bit later on. So a good range, anything basically from sort of 18 foot right up to 140 foot, which the marina can pull out here.
And when you have people booking jobs in for repair, what are the sort of hulls that you think, oh God, that's going to be a challenge? I mean, is there anything you sort of prefer to work on, and anything you find more challenging? I mean, it's just good advice for people thinking of buying, particularly second-hand boats, but even you with maintenance over time. Definitely the fiberglass is the easier operation. There's no, steel, you've got corrosion issues down the track. New steel's fine, but, something that's 20, 25 years old is starting to wear. Mm-hmm. Timber boats are okay, pretty good. A lot of them have got fiberglass over the top, or they're pure timber, but they are a lot of maintenance at the end of the day. Fiberglass is simple. It can be cut out, replaced, and can be treated easily and less expensively than probably any other product on the market. Yeah, you can kind of hide the repair like wasn't even there.
Back gel coat and all that sort of thing up top and down below you. It's easy to sort out. Yeah. Okay,
and so I mean, in terms of fiberglass, that as a science that's evolved massively over the decades, and for people with the older boats, osmosis is an issue. They say newer glass is less of an issue. But I mean, for you, what's the kind of age range you generally see osmosis being an issue in boats?
Yeah, it's coming up because what happened was polyester was used up to, I believe, around about 85, 87, and then it switched to a vinyl ester resin. So polyester was very acceptable to osmosis, and then vinyl ester kicked in. And whilst there is still a lot of osmosis around, vinyl ester is not so prevalent to that.
Right.
But in saying that, anything, you're looking at 10 to 12 years basically after, if you were to buy a boat and start anti-fouling it, paint will start to build up, and it becomes very difficult for paint to adhere to more paint. So it comes a time when it's got to come off, basically. So it's just like, in your house, or you're painting on a wall or stripping, it's got to be stripped and it's got to be redone. Yeah. And that's where the critical error is when it has been stripped off, making sure that you've got the barrier coats on there, giving that whole protection, basically, ensuring that you're getting enough paint on there.
Yeah, right. And I mean, in your experience, what percentage of boat owners would actually, once their boats are 10, 12, 15 years old, strip right back to the base and start again? Because it's not that it's not that common in terms of maybe people I've spoken to, but maybe it's just a lack of knowledge in that area.
I think it is. I mean, people are quite surprised when the boat does come out and we go around the boat. And I mean, if you can just put your hand on the side of the waterline and feel the thickness of a boat, that's generally starts to give you a good gauge.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, once the boat pulled out, there's a lot of cracking. There's some delamination of the paints and so forth. So there are good indications, but it's very difficult to advise owners, and they're sometimes a bit surprised. And then the cost involved to do that can be a little bit frightening. But at the end of the day, it's something that does need to be done. And quite often here, we'll give them a couple of years' notice to say, hey, prepare yourself for a bit of a sandblast.
Yeah.
And people sort of understand that. They realise that you can't keep putting it on. It's when the osmosis kicks in, which starts to get expensive. Just taking paint off's easy. It's just your sandblast, going back to epoxy, a couple of coats of epoxy, and you're back good for 12 years. So if you can prevent that from the start, from osmosis happening, then you're going to get good 15, 20 years out of your boating life again. So
it's a good point. And when I went through the process, it wasn't that expensive, really. No. I mean, it added $2,000 or $3,000 more to the cost of the anti-foul, but partly that was crane to take the mast out and put it in the shed, that kind of thing. But I was amazed like, suddenly it's smooth as a baby's bottom again. It's like you got a brand new hull.
Yeah.
Like it's so like the extra speed I got, easily half a knot, which on a boat that goes 6 or 7 knots, that's actually quite a lot, particularly in lighter breeze where all that drag is critical. It does, it's a little bit of a bonus if
you don't think it's going to happen, do you? You don't think, a couple of extra layers of paint makes a difference, but after 10 or 12 years, it does make a difference.
Yeah, all that extra just drag from uneven surface.
Yeah, performance and fuel economy, all important to us. So it's important that the hull's in good shape and stays really clean throughout your boating time.
Okay. So do you want to just explain, like, what osmosis is and what actually causes it? Because for people who are new to sailing or maybe haven't really given much attention to it, they just drop their boat off and say, I'll see you in a week, and come and pick it up again, and never actually turn up in between when you're going over the boat looking for osmosis like you do, and finding those pieces that are dripping water out of the hull. Do you just want to explain what it is and what causes it?
Well, basically, osmosis is through moisture entering or egressing into your hull, both externally and internally. So really important, your maintenance schedule keeps your bilges dry, because osmosis will enter from inside the hull and start to blister the boat. Much as anything underneath, if you've got delaminating paint or you've got cracks in your boat, fiberglass otherwise, that's going to be an issue as well. Water will start to seep through like a cancer and basically will cover the boat. We see it all here. We see many boats blistered. They'll have little blisters or they'll have big blisters, quite reasonable sizes. So that's when it's basically gone too late. So it's basically keeping the hull dry as possible, keeping it clean, and doing your maintenance. Do that regular pull out. Don't leave it too long, because that's when you don't know what's happening underneath the boat, and that's the problem. You think everything's okay. Get a diver on if you don't want to pull the boat out you think the NFL looks good, but the diver will soon tell you what it's like. He's a good indication.
Yeah, it's a good point. And divers can take cameras there too and grab footage for you as well.
And it's a cheap way to do it too.
Yeah.
To get yourself another 5 or 6 months, 8 months or something, get a diver down it. It works quite well.
And how do you know if it's a big versus a small problem with osmosis?
The bigger they are, Dave, the bigger problem they're going to be.
The bigger the blisters?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's a fair indication. Once you haul out and the blisters are the size of a saucer cup, you're in serious trouble. If they're just little blisters, potentially a sandblast will get that out. But if they've gone too far, then you're looking at planing. That's when the expensive business starts to come in. Mm-hmm. So really important, on your haul out, speak to your applicator, ask them, and just meet with them. We like to meet all our clients, walk around the boat with them and see if there's any issues or problems, point out any problems and let them know before issues will occur, really. So you're really important on the haul out.
Yeah, and it's good to have a walk around. All your skin fittings and your prop and your rudder, and it's amazing your boat looks quite small in the water, and you lift it out, actually you see the other half.
It's quite big. Yeah, so and you brought that up, skin fittings. That's a good one too, because there's a lot of issues there where the sicker will start to just come off underneath, and you'll start to get water in those systems. So they all need checking, and a good applicator should point out any issues or problems under your waterline if he sees something, and let your client know, what's happening basically. And if skin fittings as well, and intakes and all those sort of things need to be checked. So it's really important. We do that here at Gold Coast City. If someone wants a health check on the boat, no problem. We've got a shipwright involved, and he'll go around and check all the intakes and so forth, and seacocks, and make sure that there's no leaks and the hulls are dry. That's really important. Okay.
And in terms of the damage that can occur, how have you seen boats that actually have so far gone they can't actually be repaired economically, and how what are some of the repair bills you've seen with people that let osmosis get away on them?
Well, I haven't seen one that hasn't been able to be repaired. It comes down to the amount of laminate on your boat. So worst case scenario, you pull the boat out, we'll plane up to 6 or 7 mil off the hull. Now boats are generally, hulls are potentially sort of 9-10 mils, commercial vessels around 20. So there is a little bit there to play with, but once we've planed 6 or 7 mil off of the boat's 10 mil,
that's quite a bit.
It's hanging on the supports. It's starting to get a bit thin, so it gets a little bit edgy. But unfortunately, we'll do that on a couple of passes of a plane and remove that and re-laminate that boat. Now, if we've just got some small blisters and it's easy, some of those can be grounded out. If the boat's fully covered with blisters, then we're talking sandblast. If they're blisters that are really big, then we're talking plain. So you're going basically from $225 a foot for a sandblast to $1,000 a foot if it's worst case scenario.
Yeah, right.
So the boat's getting completely planed, it's getting new laminate, it's getting a new bum. You're getting a new bum, but you know, we've had boats that are worth $60,000 value, and you know it's a $40,000 job, and it just doesn't make sense. So really important that maintenance.
Yeah, and insurance doesn't cover you, right?
Insurance
for poor maintenance.
Yeah, exactly. Insurance companies are well aware of it, so they won't have a bar of it.
So, David, I guess over the years you've seen a few sites, and you've probably got a few photos on the files of the album, and probably actually I should ask you for a great scary photo for a podcast cover. That'd be good to have. But what are some of the common shortcuts that you've seen owners or other tradesmen take that cause some of the problems that you've seen?
I think it's important to ensure that if you're going to DIY yourself, make sure you put plenty of paint on the boat. Now, I have people come to me and they've got a 40-foot boat and they say, I'll put 10 litres on it. That's just not going to cut it. 10 litres will not work on your boat. And they'll ring us up and they'll ring the manufacturer up and say, oh, your paint's not working. We do everything by spray. It's done by microns. You want 250, 270 wet on there, which is a 125 dry. So it's really important that you're getting enough paint on there. Using carbog underneath instead of a really good epoxy that takes 8 hours to dry. People will take shortcuts just to get their boat back on the water because they're concerned it's on the hard stand and it starts costing money. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people that think, I don't want to spend a lot on the bottom because they don't see it. And that's critical.
Yeah, and the irony is the bottom's immersed in water all of the time if you've got a big boat or a yacht. And so that's where all the... Yeah. You can take shortcuts from the cabin top and get away with it, exactly. But you can't on the bottom. Which is a good point. I mean, I've always, when you break down the cost of painting a boat and you work out the marginal cost of extra paint, the travel is fixed. Labour's reasonably standard component of it. But the marginal cost of putting in an extra coat of paint on, or an extra coat just on the keel, the rudder, the bow, where it gets more wear. It's tiny in the scheme of things, but it protects the places that take the most.
And also ensuring you've got correct anodes on the boat. Because if you're in a marina, there's electrical currents running everywhere, so it's really important to ensure that you are anode right and you haven't got too much on and not enough on. Generally covering your running gear is very important because that's an expensive item to fix. So that's another good protective, using prop speed on there or a good hard anti-foul, not an ablative anti-foul. There's no point putting an ablative anti-foul on running gear. It's just going to come off basically. So
do you want to just explain what ablative is for anyone that doesn't understand?
Ablative is a self-polishing anti-foul. So as soon as you get underway, there's microns start to come off the boat.
And if you rub it with a sponge, you can see the water goes cloudy, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
So you'll see that. Whereas I think there's options of anti-foul hard against ablative. Mm-hmm. Hard is good for you sailing guys that like to go fast because quite often you want to get down, get it cleaned up before the race, and that's where a diver can come in and he'll clean it, or you do it yourself and you're rubbing it off but you're not taking any anti-foul off. So hard anti-foul for the races is an ideally suited. In saying that, you don't want to keep putting hard on hard on hard on hard because you will probably find that after 8 years or 7 or 8 years you're going to have to sandblast. So other alternatives are a hard and then an ablative on the following year or something.
So you can mix it up a little bit.
So most anti-fouls are compatible and don't have that problem. So, but I know the sailors do like to try and go as fast as possible. So as we know,
it does make a difference. Like historically you get a whole cleaned every 4 weeks. Yeah. Always the 4th week before it's cleaned, the boat just feels sluggish, particularly if it's light wind. You can just feel the difference. It's strange, but you can.
Little bit of slime on there can make a difference.
Enough to grab,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And even if you're cruising, right, just the difference of getting half a knot or not faster. That's in 24 hours, you 12 or 24 miles further ahead and out of bad weather or whatever. So less fuel to use. So
and if you're in a position to afford an extra coat on the boat, go to 3 coats or something. If you're looking at doing that, especially spray, wouldn't advise rolling if you're racing. Obviously, I mean, there's a product VC Offshore that's used for racing here, international product, and that's sprayed on like a top coat application so that it's as smooth as anything, and it's a hard product. So we do have a lot of sailors that sort of request that.
Yeah, and the spray does make a big difference. I used to, when I first bought my boat, first couple of years, the previous owner did his own anti-foul. My cousin did his own anti-foul, so I thought, that's what you do. Yeah. And I did it with a roller. Oh, what a horrible job. Well, rolling, but also the finish just didn't look great.
It's so inconsistent because you're starting in one area, you're finishing in another. Yeah. So how much paint are you really getting on?
Yeah, and then the tin goes down a little bit faster than you think. So the last third of the boat you roll a little bit thinner, and
you start to miss it.
Yeah. Okay. What are other shortcuts or people take?
Yeah, just the anodes and.
I mean, anodes are cheap, right?
Anodes are
$25, $30. Why would you stuff around?
Yeah,
like with mine, even if they're only a third used, I just replace them. It's not worth having them go all the way down and then, that's right, corrupt other parts of your boat.
Yeah, and I suppose that's just insufficient paint getting put on those shortcuts. Maybe just saying, I can get a year without that skin fitting being changed or something, It's just, it can be a bit of a minefield for someone who's new into boating because they think they don't understand the costs that are involved as well. So just be mindful of that. You really want about 6 or 7% of what your boat's worth for an annual maintenance program.
Yeah, or maybe 10.
10.
Depends on how old your boat is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's right. You should. The point is, it's a poor assumption to buy a boat and think, I've got my boat now, I'm good. Yeah. I've got some fuel costs and some marina costs and some insurance costs. No. It's if a whole economy not to keep up your maintenance, right? The problems magnify quite quickly, and a dollar becomes 5 or 10 quite quickly.
More expensive for you is if you're racing too, because there's a lot of other extremities that you got to worry about, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And if you're offshore or something too, and you've got skin fittings been compromised, but it's a good point on the osmosis being caused from inside the hull. I never really thought much about that, but if you don't have your bilge in good shape and your pumps in good shape, water sloshing around.
And they're just checks that you should be doing, every time you get on the boat, do a quick 5-10 minute check on that, make sure those bilge pumps are working well, and if you've got water sitting around the bilge pump, ideally if you can get rid of it, you might think, it's not a lot to worry about, but over time that's a long time that it sits there.
Yeah.
And just dry it up or sponge it up every now and again if you've got a good access.
And also once water penetrates the skin of the glass and it gets into it, like osmosis, it just spreads sideways like a cancer, right? It just actually, it gets into the core and away it goes.
Just imagine a sponge soaking it up, really. I mean, it's going to do that over time, I mean, osmosis is, you're not. We've seen osmosis on boats that are 2 or 3 years old,
Really?
Which is quite, and that's from manufacture where the mould's been sort of wet when it's been laid up, or there's been moisture somewhere that's incurred. So
it's got trapped inside the glass.
It's got trapped in there and it started to come out. And it may not be all over the boat, but there may be certain areas where that mould was lying or something, and it's got wet. So. Yeah, it can still happen, but even though Vinyless is, the new craze product, it still happens. And
so you shouldn't be complacent, I guess.
Absolutely.
It's the lesson, regardless, 5 years old, 10 years old, 2 years old.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So I've always found that selecting anti-foul, if you do it on the basis of picking up a tin, is extremely confusing. Because there's also, and so, I mean, from your point of view, can you want to take me through the budget to premium range and just talk about the differences and what they are and why they are, because it just to help people at least if they understand the range, then whoever they're working with to make that choice, then they understand you don't know what you don't know, you don't know what to ask. If you just assume someone's going to select the paint for you without actually checking what your needs are. I know you spent time with me, explaining different products, told me what you recommend, but it was only after you actually asked, what am I trying to achieve? How, what do I do? Where do I go? What do I want out of the product? Yeah. So it is quite and again, in the scheme of things, if you look at the other fixed costs around lifting the boat out, putting it back in, cost of painting the boat, if you just go for the cheapest paint, versus a quality paint, the marginal cost of better paint is actually not that much in the scheme of the whole job, right?
Well, not really. I mean, in general, most paints are fairly good. If you look at the top brands, Jotun International, Seahawk, LTX, they're all good quality brands, and they're ones that we stock and sell in the shop, and ones that we prefer to use. And I think it comes back to your question, Dave. What are you doing with your boat? Where are you going? Where are you parking? How often are you using your boat? They're all important questions. Really depend on what sort of paint you need.
Yeah.
There's paints for anti-slime. If you're leaving your boat in the marina a long time, get an anti-slime paint so that the slime will fall off, and as soon as you get underway, it'll go away. There's really no real right answer for hot or cold water in general. Of course, hot water warmer water, when people go north, the water will create more growth, I suppose.
Yeah.
So really important that the biocides and the anti-foul will protect you against that, and that comes down to the anti-slime and extra copper and those sort of paints. Seahawk have a good one called Biocop. We're getting good traction with that. It's going on a lot of the super yachts, and it's starting to come down and go into a lot of everyday boaties boats. And you've got Seahawk on your boat, and it's performing really well. So, but in general, most anti-fouls are good. It does come down to that, keeping it clean and the maintenance side. So yeah, ranging from $34 to $92. Then you've got the commercial side.
And that's a per litre or
per litre?
Yeah,
per litre, yeah. So, and most you'll be looking at 4.5 litres per square metre on your boat as a general. Some do go a bit further. You've got the commercial side where the ferries and that, they use a silicon anti-foul. That's very expensive. The boat's got to be sandblasted every time it comes out, every 5 years or so, and reapplicated. But they'll get 5 years out of that boat. Now, most companies do provide a silicon anti-foul, but you've got to do a certain amount of hours, just about 24/7 of that boat running to qualify for that boat.
And get the right return on investment for the cost of it.
Yeah, because of the expense side. So, yeah, they're the questions you would ask your applicator. This is what I'm doing with my boat. This is where I'm going. What do you suggest? And for the everyday boatie that's parked up and is probably using his boat 3-4 hours a month, 5, maybe hopefully people are using them more than that. I know you do, Dave. But,
twice a week's my average.
Yeah, twice a week. It's always sailing, trust me. So really important. But any anti-foul around the $34, $38 mark is going to meet your needs, and you'll get about 12 months, 14 months.
Yeah.
And the other ones, the slightly more expensive ones, Seahawk do provide a full warranty that includes the replacement cost of the product and the applicator's time and the haul out.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking of changing, it's a good option to go with that. And you'll.
So is that common to have a company provide a warranty?
No, it's the first in Australia, I believe. Most paint companies will have a 12-month warranty. Yeah. But that's only covering the product. Doesn't cover the labour cost or the haul out cost.
Which is 2/3 of the cost.
Exactly, yeah.
So they cover the whole lot.
They cover the whole lot.
So that's a US company, right?
And we did one for a company for Seahawk just a few months ago where it was applied in one of the Mediterranean islands, and they backed it up, and the gentleman came here and he pulled out and everything was met.
Wow. So the paint I'm using, can you just explain why it works like it works, in the sense that and I don't want to, bag a brand or promote a brand, but I'm just saying from my personal experience. The International Ultra was great, but because I got that smooth finish, hard finish, but I had to keep up the cleaning. And last time it was done December 2017. Sailed down to Sydney, went to Hobart, left in the marina for a couple of months, went back and thought, it'll be spotless. Because I was going across the Tasman, New Zealand Customs made me get the hull cleaned and provide footage, camera footage. And the diver who cleaned it had, pictures of slime on the hull. And I thought, cold water, it'll be fine, fresh paint, but it was actually quite slimy. So, and then fast forward to 4 months ago, changing to the Seahawk. I mean, what's in that makes that paint work? Because I'm only 4 months into it, but I've done 3,000 miles.
Yeah.
And then it's obviously sat in the marina in warm water in between. And I've had it checked every month, and there's just nothing there.
Well, it's got all those chemicals in it, basically, and it's got a lot of copper in it as well. So probably
like when you pick up a tin, it's quite heavy, right? Is that the copper?
Yeah, it's the copper content and the biocides that are involved in that mix that make it something a little bit special, I suppose. And you do a lot of sailing, obviously, and that's really good for your boat too, as well. At the end of the day, for the anti-foul side of it, rather than sitting around for a few months. But yeah, we've had good results from Q-Coats. We've got guys with cats on it up in Sunshine Coast. They've got 2 years, and they just can't believe the result that they're getting after haul out. And honestly, when you pull the boat out, you think, well, just put it back.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years is quite a good time. I mean, I've put 3 coats on at times with the previous products, and then pushed for 15 or 18 months, but you kind of don't really get there.
No,
it still gets compromised on parts where there's higher wear. So
we've been with Seahawk just for a couple of years now, 2.5, 3 years, I think. So we're still getting good feedback from our clients that are getting that on the boat. So consider we've been with Jotun for over 20 years, and once again, good quality product. So I think it really does come down to what sort of boating you want to be doing and how often you're going out. And people will get brand confidence, and they will continue with, you can tell them anything and they won't change from that brand because it's work. And here we don't just change for the sake of it. If a customer's got a brand on the boat and it's working well, don't even bother changing. We'd rather not do that. We just keep it going. If they've had Jotun applied or International, just stick with it. If you're happy with it, don't break it, basically. So
it keeps life simple if you get predictable performance.
We do get people that get a bit disillusioned and think, well, I haven't got long out of that. Then change your brand if you want. It's like just changing your coffee or your tea or whatever at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay. And so, environmentally, is copper an issue environmentally? And so this clearly fits inside the normal restrictions around copper, because historically, everybody knows that they even nailed copper onto the bottom of ships historically, and it's in lieu of having anti-foul, but
putting Roundup in it.
So there's still,
I didn't say that.
and so clearly copper is still a component you can use, but there's obviously levels at which it can't go above in terms of.
Obviously, the BioCop, it's got a huge amount of copper in it, but it's expensive because of that reason, and that's why it's a good quality anti-foul. So you're sort of paying for what you get, probably, I suppose.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, David, is given you guys have worked on thousands of hulls over the years, if you're giving somebody advice if they're buying a second-hand yacht, the materials you love and the materials you'd avoid completely, given a choice, because there's steel serves a purpose, and there's alloy, and there's glass, and there's timber, and there's even ferro cement occasionally, which you don't see very often. You can't get them insured anymore. The old Harley ferries are pretty famous. The resale value is pretty poor, but what are your favourite materials? What would you just avoid given a choice?
It's really fiberglass at the end of the day. It's efficient. It's easy to work with. Steel's. If you've got a newer steel boat, it's not really a problem. It's only after years it starts to get corrosion and problems in areas. Steel can be cut out and replaced. That's quite a simple process as well.
Yeah.
But it's got to be fiberglass for me. It's light and it's economical and it's generally everywhere and it's available to fix easy.
Yeah, and strength to weight ratio is pretty strong.
Solid.
They always say steel's stronger, and sure it is, but there's a big trade-off with weight.
Weight-wise.
A lot of extra weight, and
maintenance, really, at the end of the day.
You've got to be meticulous with that, and even then you've got challenges.
Yeah, for sure. And we've seen steel yachts come through and that have been sandblasted and repainted, and really honestly, within 5 or 6 years, the rest are starting to come back. You don't get it on fiberglass. Sure, you might have to paint the hull every 12 years or something, and topside and underneath every 10 years, but it's fairly lack-free, really.
Yeah. And you can always, when you're walking through a marina looking at yachts, you can always spot the steel ones. It doesn't matter how good they are, you always see those lovely brown marks, those stains running down the side of the hull. Not trying to offend anyone with a steel yacht, because there's some well-maintained yachts out there, but you have to be on your game with maintenance.
And if you look at trawlers, they're all steel as well. The trawler fishermen, they all seem to like steel, because I think it's for them, it's practical. Cut it out.
Yeah, and it's robust.
Good to go.
Bang off stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So so let's just, I guess we're just wrapping up on so if you went out there today and you bought a second-hand yacht, 10, 15 years old, what steps would you take? What would you do to check what's below the waterline, and then take positive action to get it under control and then take it forward from a maintenance program and management point of view?
Well, definitely haul it out. Obviously, I'm a prop and shaft man, so I know yachts. A lot of yachts have sail drives, and not so much of a problem. But anything with legs is a nightmare, mechanically wise and maintenance wise. Sports cruisers with legs, and I wouldn't go down that path. If I was going to get something, it would be with outboards or prop and shaft scenario. Sailboat wise, ensuring that you're hauling the boat out for that pre-purchase inspection. Engage a good surveyor. If you've got enough knowledge yourself, then that's not too bad. It's really the bottom, ensuring that that's in good health, and you're not going to be lumped with a $20,000-$30,000 bill just on the next haul out. A lot of people buy a boat unsight unseen, and that can be a headache. And we've had a few of those people in the past where they thought they were getting a good deal, and really it wasn't a good deal. So it's you're paying for what you get, really, at the end of the day. So ensuring pre-purchase inspection, making all your seacocks are all opening and shutting, that's important. Insurance companies are getting a lot tougher now. They won't really generally insure houseboats, and some sailboats are becoming a problem, steel boats. And as you said, concrete ferros won't go down the line. So just make sure that your boat's in good health. And I know people are buying 25, 30-year-old boats, and there's still some beautifully maintained boats out there. That's not a problem. But just guard yourself by getting it checked by a surveyor of choice, and making sure that the report comes back good.
Well, it's good advice too, because if you don't, you may get insurance the first year, but next year they might say, we need a surveyor's report with your renewal. Yeah. And at that point, if you haven't had one and then you find your problems, you actually can find your boat uninsurable. So if you're not careful depending on the value of it, without a surveyor's report, you might find you have problems. And then it's uninsurable. You can't stay in marinas. You can't enter races. You can't do a lot. You can't do. That's right. You can't haul it out. You can't do a lot of stuff.
No, just sink it and put it at the bottom of the ocean.
Start again.
Exactly.
Okay, so we haven't really touched on it, but rudders and keels are pretty important parts of keeping a boat upright. We have to get keel bolts inspected on a regular basis for category 1, 2 racing checks, that kind of stuff, which is good. But also, I'm conscious when you pull the yacht out, there's a keel attached to a hull, there's bolts holding it there, there's a sealant between the keel and the hull. Yep. There's stuff you can have, there's issues you can have with rudders. You can have, I've had this where there's been damage to the rudder and water's got inside the rudder, and now you pull this boat out and it's dripping for days because you've got water inside your rudder. Yep. So what are some of the warning signs that you should pay attention to or look for?
On haul out, definitely get, even if you can engage a prop and shaft marine engineer is ideal, but you will notice with a lot of play in your rudder, if there's any problems there, if you've got a lot of movement and then you've got some bearing problems or so forth, and just ensuring that your rudder's nice and straight, haven't had any damage, haven't hit anything, you'll see signs of that. That's going to be fairly obvious. So keeping that in tow, and I would say engage a prop and shaft guy that does that work. We don't do it, but we've got people on site here at Gold Coast City Marine that look after that. With the keel side of it, obviously steel keels down the bottom, they do get rusty. I think you've got one, haven't you?
A steel keel, yeah.
Steel keel. Ensuring that you once that comes out, it's getting good amount of epoxies on it and protecting it from that corrosion side of it, because a lot of them, will hit things in the ocean or hit sand or whatever, so forth. So ensuring that the keel joins are good and they've got good sicker in them, prevent that water from getting through those keel bolts and rusting, making sure that's well protected. And really, it's got a lot of primer and paint on it when it does come out and gets prepped right. Ideally, if you can sandblast them, that's a bonus to get them back, because steel's fairly simple to sandblast. There's not a lot of problems with steel.
It gets quite pitted, so it's pretty hard to sand the pit.
Yeah.
You can't sand the pitting out really, so you can. You've got a grinder in there and horrible job.
And that's an advantage of a steel boat. You can just blast it and then paint it. It's easy, but with a fiberglass boat, after it's been blasted, it generally needs to be faired or something, so that is an extra cost. So big bonus for steel boats there.
Yeah.
Just paint them and good to go.
And I found the first few years with my keel before you guys got under control, you'd anti-foul it, and with like 3 months, the paint would be bubbling off again. And it was a hell of a problem. And then the sandblasting and then the epoxy, and then since then it's actually been pretty good.
Yeah.
It's been great. So you can get under control, even though people can tell you can't. You actually can, because you guys have, and it used to just drive me nuts the first 2 or 3 years.
Well, Jotun have a good product, Jotun Mastic, that can, has got an anti-corrosive on it, and I think that's what we've got on your keel to protect that. So it's really important that you get, once it's gone back to raw, that you get that protection on it.
And then you try not to run aground.
Yeah.
So wear the anti-foul off the bottom of your keel, so the barnacles grow.
That's always going to happen.
Yeah, when you're racing in shallow areas like we are, where it's a metre to 3 metres deep at times, we get caught out. Luckily it's sandy, occasionally muddy.
Also on the application too, if you ideally can get your shipyard to lift the boat the night before, so that the applicator can get that epoxy on, gives it a bit more time, because unfortunately when we're in the yard, we're pulling the boat up before we go to water, and we're trying to do all our touch-ups and everything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's a bit of an issue, because as soon as the boat goes into the water, it's going to be a problem. It's not really going to adhere or stick. The only way to get around that is not moving the boat, just parking it up straight away, and the paint will cure in the water.
Yeah.
But generally, once you're under movement,
got to get out of there.
And
it's really good advice, and most people don't appreciate, because they never get told. But the props that are holding your boat up to stabilise it, you can't paint behind those. The keel's sitting on a block, you can't paint under the keel. And in my first 2 or 3 years, again, take all that gear away, it's in the slings, painter goes, whizzes round, and then you just drop the boat straight back in the water. And I always thought, how does it dry that fast? But it doesn't. And so, a tip, if you've got a good boat, good friendly boatyard, if you're going back in the water the first job in the morning, then the night before, see if they'll put the boat in the slings ready to go, so it can sit there, which means that all those areas under the keel where the support blocks have been against the side of the hull, they're then exposed. Paint can go on. It's got 12 hours. Massive difference, especially the bottom of your keel. Otherwise, mine used to just be rough and full of barnacles all the time. Now it's really smooth. It's just great.
Oh, good.
But you've got to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get it, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And you need a friendly boatyard that, who wants to sort of, drop you in last thing at night and back in the water fixing them in the morning. Okay. So, without, you guys have been great with my hull. It's never looked better. I mean, the new paint job 4 months ago, I think it's the best it's ever looked. It's been looking great, but maybe it's just that black and white, those Kiwi colours, We almost won we almost got the Cricket World Cup. We got the netball this week.
Yeah, we
and the rugby and the America's Cup. Who would have thought? So, in terms of, there's obviously a whole lot of people who listen to the podcast who are in this catchment area. There's a whole lot of people outside this area across the rest of the country and other countries around the world. So you buy a boat, or you've got some problems right now with the current people you're working with, anti-foul wise, and you think this is just how it is. How do you choose? How do you find a good anti-foul company? How do you select somebody? How do you know they're going to be great? What steps would you take?
I think it's key questions are, how long have they been in business? Go in and see them before you want to pull the boat out. Ask questions. How much paint do you put on? Do you roll? Do you spray? Give them some of the concerns and see what kind of questions and answers you get back, really, at the end of the day. I think that's really important. Obviously, applicators that have been in business for a long time, ensure you get someone that's based probably at a marina, because they've got more to lose than someone in a van that's going to do it at half the price. That's important, I think. So reputation is everything, and if there's an unhappy client, it's really important that the problems are fixed, and they will fix them for you if there is any issues. So don't be afraid to go and see the people beforehand. Don't just book your boat in the marina and think that it's going to get done. Ask some questions on who's going to anti-foul and then go and see them. Because a lot of marinas will take the boats on and they'll say, yes, we can get it anti-fouled, but who's actually anti-fouling the boat? So ensure that you're asking those questions to start with, really. I think it's just giving you peace of mind once you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's good. We've got clients for 15, 18 years, that just come back, and it's refreshing because they started off at a 22-footer and now they're running with a 50 or 60-footers, and they just come back to us because they're comfortable with us, and we see the boat too on that yearly inspection basis, so we get a good record.
Yeah, you kind of get to know it, don't you?
Yeah,
you know what to look out for, and yeah.
So it's really important that you do that, I think, really, and you can avoid a lot of headaches by just engaging someone over a phone on a van that's going to turn up at a marina, and you've got no idea how much paint he's putting on the boat or whatever at the end of the day.
Okay, and just in your experience, what proportion of boaters would you say are so price focused they'll just choose the cheapest quote without actually thinking about what they're getting for their money?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a competitive industry here on the Gold Coast. There are, we've got several marinas that we're up against, and to us, at the end of the day, someone that's offering you a cheap price, then you've got to ask those questions. How much paint are you putting on the boat? Get a couple of prices. I mean, we might be dearer than a lot of our competitors, but at the end of the day, we'll stand up behind our product and we'll back it.
Yeah.
And you've got to ask yourself, will they do the same? So really important. We're not going to be the cheapest, but if someone is offering a cheap price, find out what the application methods are, how much paint they're putting on the boat, and compare them with another applicator and see what you come up with.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's about value, not about price, and it's what you're getting for what you're spending. Because if you spend 20% less, but you get half the job, it's not good value, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And in the first time I bought my boat here, I got 3 quotes.
Yeah.
Hand on heart, chose the cheapest one. Couldn't really tell between the quotes what the differences were. That was my fault.
Yeah.
But my experience now, given the issues I had with that first year, which for the company that will go unnamed, was the shortcuts they took meant I was doing myself a disservice to save a few $100 to get less coverage, osmosis issues dealt with badly, filler instead of fiberglass. So it's almost like you need to ask the cheapest company to justify how they can be so cheap. What are you leaving out?
Yeah.
What shortcuts are you taking?
Yeah.
Because there's not the hard stand's fixed, the lift out's fixed. So then you've got product and labour, right? Well, if you're shortcutting the labour, you're shortcutting the product. Neither of those are good.
And preparation's the key, because the paint needs to stick. So, that important part about the boat coming out, making sure that it's all wet rubbed and all the gears ground up, and rather than just coming out. I've seen boats come out at 8 o'clock in the morning and they're in the water at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's just nuts, isn't it?
It's crazy. I mean, the paint doesn't even get a chance to dry, and there's no preparation involved. So really, that person's just going to be wasting their money. But we know people do it, and it happens all the time. But
well, and I guess the analogy is if you got bloody skin cancer, or you need heart surgery. Yeah. Do you look for the cheapest quote online, or do you find someone who knows what they're doing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the consequences can be similar with a boat.
Yeah.
And I guess just summing up, I mean, how do you avoid a low quality, poor workmanship situation? So say it all sounds great. Yep, met with the company, told a great story. Is it normal that people will ask for references? Is it normal that they'll speak to other clients? Have you got any advice in that area? Because there's online reviews. There's people who love you. There's people that don't love you. That's life these days. But how do you what can you do to just to make sure that company that's been around for 5, 10, 20 years?
Or phone a friend. Ask the guy next door in the marina berth beside you. Who do you use? How do you find? They're all questions that you want to ask, and Google and see reviews on their sites and see how professional they are and what they do. They're really just good, easy, basic questions that you can ask yourself. And a lot of our business is referral from clients that we have that we've done for years, and we're able to make them a permanent client as well. So important to us, but it's really not overly difficult to make sure that you're asking the right questions. I think it's really important. Yeah,
and you should ask the question. Don't hesitate to ask the question, because
absolutely right. There's no dumb question, unfortunately.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to double check. And I've worked with a similar core group of specialists for a few years now, and I just stick to them because they're great. But I tell other people, use these people for these reasons. But I have had some surprises and some setbacks and some things that haven't gone well, and so equally boaters are pretty good at sharing their war stories as well as being honest about the people that they prefer to use and why. So asking around,
And, is the company going to back it up? If there is a problem, will the company back it up? They're really important questions and answers for someone to achieve at the end of the day, because it's, there's no point if we warrant our work all the time. So if someone comes to us and said there's a problem with my paint, we'll investigate it and we'll check it out. Now, there's so many outside contributing factors. Are you using your boat enough? Is the boat in a contaminated area or whatsoever? I mean, going through oils just after you've been anti-fouled, I mean, you've got contamination on, you start getting growth around the bow area, and people say, well, it's just coming back. I mean, it's not a paint product, it's not an application product. Unfortunately, the ocean's got a lot of dirties in it.
Yeah.
And especially around marinas where oil and fuel are leaking out of boats, We did a big 86 North Haven a while ago, and he had to come out for a thruster issue after we had painted him. And as soon as it was pulled out, you could see the oil that was sticking to the anti-foul,
right?
Which was a bit sad. Unfortunately, someone had a leaky problem in the marina, and we pulled it out. And the only thing you can do is just get some soapy water on that and clean that off as best as possible. But further down the track, and this boat took 100 litres of paint. At the end of the day, it could be a contamination issue on that. So there's a lot of outside influences that can contribute to stuff failing. So a good investigation sort of does need to be, it's not always the applicator's problem, it's not always the paint product problem. Outside environments can contribute. Yeah,
well, I can't remember where I was. I was somewhere for a while, and the boat next to me changed, and that caused massive electrolysis problems with my boat, ripped through the anodes, caused keel issues, and it's just because the boat at the next to me in the marina had issues.
Blow your paint off, basically.
That's what it was doing. And so nothing other than my neighbour changed in the marina. So that's right. You just don't know what kind of contributing factors can be. Well, that's great, David. Well, it's a Friday afternoon here, and I really appreciate you putting aside the end of your week, probably past your knock-off time. Was there anything else? Any other advice, thoughts, tips you want to? Any other comments you want to add at all before we wrap up? Because I really appreciate you sharing your technical expertise here.
No problem. No, it's nice to be involved, and it's good to think that people listen to some advice they may take or may not. But at the end of the day, it's all about boating and what we enjoy and getting out there and enjoying the spectacular weather we have on the coast here, and it's a big plus. And we have a busy time. We've been pumping for about 7 or 8 months. This has probably been the busiest year that we've ever had for work for the last probably 10, 12 years. So it's good to know
that's great.
People are still spending money and getting out there and enjoying it.
Strong local economy.
Yeah, that is. I think there's something in it. But no, it's good.
Okay, that's excellent.
So happy boating, everyone.
Well, thank you, and thanks for taking good care of me for the last 4+ years. And on the Ocean Sailing Podcast website, if you go to the sponsors page, there's details of how you can get in touch with Bradford Marine there. There's also details of the more about Seahawk paint, which is the paint I now use, and I recommend it because I use it, not because I'm paid to say it's great, but I use it and it does a great job. So I always like to share the breakthroughs, even though I'm sharing them with my fellow competitors who might, take a few tips out of that. But it's all about looking after your boat and having a long and happy life on the water with something that doesn't cost you all sorts of things you can prevent. So
that's it. Yeah, good one.
Excellent. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Dave. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Ocean Sailing Podcast. Email your comments and suggestions to david@oceansailingpodcast.com.au. See you next week.
If you'd like to find out more about joining me on board Ocean Gem, my Beneteau 45, for an upcoming ocean race, ocean passage or regatta, go to oceansailingpodcast.com. Check out the calendar. We've got some great stuff coming up and down the east coast of Australia. Off to Noumea next year, trips from Noumea to Fiji, back to Hamilton. And then an exciting race across the Tasman that we'll see happen for the first time in decades from Sydney to Auckland in February 2021. Thanks, folks. Catch you soon.
So turn around. watching some getting ready to die. Then knocked down to the ground and can't get back up. Feelings are sad, I want to be mad. Days here are like precious gold. If you live another one, you have faith to carry on. So turn around and hear them speak. So turn around and help them out. Turn around 'cause you're watching them cry and watching some getting ready to die. The memory of their courage is taped in my head. It plays a soft one too. I painted a picture of the past. I picture cold, dark sand and skies. I painted the future how it's supposed to be, with warm sun and a bright town. So turn around and hear them speak. So turn around and help them out. Turn around 'cause you're watching them cry and watching some getting ready